Okay. Te utu o te haka momori, the price of suicide.
Kei te whare tapu o Ngāpuhi, nau mai, haere mai, tū hono mai ki tēnei wānanga o tātou e kia nei ko Uia Te Pa. This is what therapy aims to do. Welcome to this podcast of Uia Te Pa, where we look at the experience of suicide and mental health well-being within our whānau. He uri koe ngā rāhiri, mokopuna nāku, nau mai, haere mai. Eke panuku, eke tangoro, hara mai te toki, haumie hui e.
Tai.
Kia koe e te matua, kia koe Papa Pio. Ko hau mai ki te whare, ki tēnei wānanga, e kia nei ko Uia Te Pa, e kaha mihi ana kia koe. Me te hoatu, i te rākau kōrero kia koe, kia homai o whakapapa, kia homai o mahi, kia mohi o mai te iwi, ko ai koe, no hea koe, no re, kia koe te papa.
Kia ora koutou, kia ora koe te rangatira. He pipi a hau no raro i ngā kahi katoa o whangape, pangoru, miti, paoringa, whānau mai au i rāwene. Engari tupu a hau i roto i Tāmaki Makaurau, Waipareira hoki, e mihi ana kia koutou. Oku mahi i tēnei wā, ngā mahi i rungi ngā pauaka whakāta, ngā mahi kōrero ki te iwi, ki ngā iwi Pākehā, ngā e kina ngā treaty partners, ne? E rā momo mahi, he pai tōku tū i roto i rā mahi, no reira ngā mihi kia koutou.
Kia ora pa. And what an exciting episode to arrive to in the tail end of this kaupapa. Exciting in a sense of the insights I think we'll be getting from you, from your mahi, and from your journey and your story.
Yeah.
And I think that might be where I'd like to start in terms about learning your story with grief and your story with loss, e pasu.
Yeah, kia ora. We wouldn't be able to have this conversation a few years ago because I was so smitten with grief through the loss of my son, through cancer. And even now, I've just got back from Mitimiti today, where we took him back to, because he always wanted to be by the sea. And I thought, oh, hang on, my mother's still there, so there's all our places in the north. Yeah, so the grief that happened prior to him passing, just in the imagination of the loss, was incredibly heavy. That mountain that you didn't know how high it was, in some ways, I wouldn't say harder than when we actually lost him, but you couldn't sort of visualize what was happening. Are we going to lose this guy? Are we going to make it? And every day was a journey, and there were good newses and there were ups and downs. Ngā piki me ngā heke. And this went on for 2 years. And for me to I suppose, continue to operate was really difficult. I ended up being two people. This emotional mess, and then the funny guy who had to host a 3-day conference overseas or something, which is what I do. So that was a real journey, and the anticipation of loss, I forget the Pākehā whakatauki, but, fearing fear is the biggest fear sort of thing, eh? And then it hit us, and we went through the process, of where we're going to take our boy and all that stuff. And, the whānau rallied round, and it was just a haze. And, I remember the first person turning up was Aroha Shelford, and then Stacey Morrison, Scotty Morrison, and they just took over. But you're just in this haze of incredible grief. And the other thing is, too, I think people can respond differently depending. I've always been a dreamer. I've always had pictures in my head. I wanted to create pictures. So those pictures of him not being there were really heightened, because if you're a man of imagination, you're always thinking, you know, if you're and I'm, you know, harata mea hakahihi ana, but if you're just in that settled tunnel vision space, those other things can't come in. So that sounds a little bit weird, but yeah, I actually went to the doctor and I got no problem saying that I went on antidepressants. I went to him for advice, and he said, I said, so I'm not taking that stuff, taking that stuff in. And but I did, and it just kept me off the floor enough to operate. Maybe I should have been stronger. Maybe I don't care, and I don't give a rat's bum what anybody else thinks. I had to survive this, and I had to create a platform of regrowth for my family. And that's the other thing. Everybody grieves different. So my two boys, the older boys, they grieved different. My wife grieved different, surrounded herself by a lot of women, actually, which was good. I didn't care how she was going to cope with this. You know, we were always there for each other. But, you know, it's probably... I can't even tell you the date, because I block it out. Why would I want to remember that? You know? And yeah, so it's... And even, you know, I've just come back from Mitimiti, I'm in a good space, but even talking about it sort of drags you back into that darkness, eh? So, yeah, it's... my biggest whakaaro, though, is because I'm relatively, you know, not the smartest guy in the world, but I've got some smarts. How do people who don't have any smarts or don't have whānau support navigate this? I can ring anybody. You know, I'm so lucky to be connected to so many people. I had everybody around me. What about our whānau who don't have that? Hey, you know, with te no taimaha ne.
Yeah.
Where do they go?
Yeah, te ro moki ana.
Yeah.
And there's a few points you kind of touched on, Pai, in sharing your story around the pain we imagine.
Yeah.
The pain we imagine and the anticipation of grief and anticipation of loss. Ngā piki ma ngā hike, it's like hope is great because it picks us up, but when it's taken away, we also fall flat back on the earth, and it becomes an exhausting process of like letting ourselves rise, catching ourselves when we fall. This disruption it causes across the whole whānau.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as clear for others, it's not as sure for others.
Yeah.
And it is, I guess, inside that purpose. And we do have strengths though. We do have kōrero around like social support, people you can ring on. But again, what of whānau who don't have that support and don't have those things in place to really get to understand their process and their mamae, because it is such a confusing time. Like grief is, I think we started talking about it, it's such a thing. And how would you... It's like some people try and put it as like, oh, there's 4 stages to grief. Yeah. You start here, you finish here, and then that's it. Yeah. Do you agree with that? No. Or is that complete?
No, you don't finish. You don't finish. You're always going to walk with a limp. You're always going to have, you know, a few beats of your heart that, you know, it doesn't go away. It's like, you know, I was sitting having a beer with my mate up in Mitimiti. Look at the waves rolling in Mitimiti. You know, how lucky I am to have places like that to go through. And grief is like that water, bro. That wave is going to whack you off your feet, so all you got to do is keep treading water. If you go under, you know, and you keep treading water, and it's all very white, that's an interesting whakaaro, but treading water is being selfish with your emotions. So no, I need to go to sleep, or I need to rest, or I need to go to the ngahere, or I need to, you know, don't compromise those things as far as your own well-being's concerned. And then I was talking to a kaumata from Tūrangi, actually. Sam Chapman is his name, and he spent a lot of time with the Mangul mob, a minister, you know. And I was at the angry stage of grief, and we were sitting there with this kaumata, and he didn't have any milk, and he made me a coffee, you know, in those cups, those marae cups that look like glass, but they're not glass. You can throw them at a wall, they won't break. Yeah, I've tried it. And no, my wife's tried it, actually. No, anyway, and so you can see the darkness of this coffee, eh? And I was angry. I'm red brain. We'll go back and talk about red brain. And I was at the angry stage, and he got my coffee, and he went over to the tap, and he just turned the water on, and he just stuck that coffee cup under that water until the clear water replaced the dark substance. And he described that water as you need to surround yourself with intelligent aroha. Not just aroha, intelligent or wise, eh? You know? Don't go down, oh, you'll be right, bro. Yeah, it's bloody bad, mate. You'll be right. Have another beer. You don't need that shit. You need intelligence and wisdom, and we're fortunate enough to have that within our ranks of Te Ao Māori, eh? Yeah, I believe, eh?
And that's a really interesting word, Pai. What is this thing, red brain, if we can touch on it?
Well, I've been in red brain for about 5 years, orange now, actually. What it is if you go into red brain through grief, you're trigger happy. So if you go, it happened up here, bro. It happened up here. I was going to speak at a kaupapa for Māori headmasters around grief. And I spent the last day rolling over this presentation in my head. So it actually dragged me down into red brain. So red brain is the part of your brain, that's your survival brain. And these two young island boys cut me off on their car. Wow. I just saw red. Wound the window down, and I used all those words, like whakatāne and whakatipu without the second part of the word, and I'm going to get out there and smack you, and you're out of control. So your cognitive ability goes from a reasonably smart guy to a 2-year-old throwing a tantrum.
Yeah.
And that's what grief can do. And then I was talking to a mate of mine. Sorry, I get paid by the word. I was talking to a mate of mine, and she said grief causes reckless behaviour, right? So I went home and I thought, what if there's a whole race of people grieving? Ne? Tātou te Māori. And I asked a friend of mine who's, she's part of that brain sort of psychiatry stuff, and she says, do you think Māori are grieving generally? And she says, well, probably. Look at their history. And then you talk about intergenerational grief that goes down and down and down and down. Anyway, I'm digressing. But it's a real thing that, tell you what, it makes you grateful. And you don't have small conversations. Some kid worrying about the new colour of his next bloody iPhone.
Yeah, you're not talking about the weather.
No, no.
Yeah, meaningful, deep.
Yeah. And sorry, I took you all over the place there, but
Paina,
it's something I'll live with, and my family will live with forever. And there's a whole heap of other people in this shit club. Hey, because my wife and another woman who lost her 18-year-old, they started an organisation called Healing Hearts. And mostly it's women in this, and they'll go away and have coffee once a month. Wow. And I went to one of these coffee sessions, and I saw this couple walk in, bro, and they looked like death walking. And I thought, oh, shit, that's how I used to look. But at least these groups are there, especially for our Pākehā whānau who maybe don't have the structures that we might have in a Māori world.
That collective interest there.
Yeah.
And I guess on that point, Pa, around your journey with grief, your in a way, I guess, an advocate for it, or a spokesperson on it, on how to deal with it, and certainly within your whānau. Tell me more about that process of being a person in grief to being someone supporting others through grief, and what you do to support others dealing with grief.
I think intelligent aroha, it's what you say and it's what you don't say, I remember I worked for an organisation called the Parenting Place, who are a Christian-based organisation. I'm not Christian, I'm half a Catholic from Pangaru, but I only do the sign of the L. But that whole concept of other people going through grief, like when I came back from the Christmas holidays, I walked into the office. I use an office here 2 days a week in Green Lane, and these people didn't say, "Oh, how was your Christmas, mate? I feel like headbutting you." Nobody said that. They just said, oh, Pio, I hope you had a peaceful time with your family. That's clever. That's clever. You know, and I remember some of my whānau up north, they didn't ask how I was. They can see how I was. And they just look at you and say, hey, bro, always here, brother. You don't have to say anything else.
It doesn't have to be as like maybe intrusive or maybe overstated. It's just be like,
yeah, always here, yeah. And especially with our whānau, our men who don't want to talk. Boy, man, we're some of the best orators on the planet. And it's sometimes our men think expressing your feelings is a sign of weakness, bro. Not to me. Not to me. I don't want you to guess how I feel. Hey, bro. You know, I want this conversation to be, and you know, to be vulnerable, to show a different type of strength. You know, that sort of, to me, that sort of whakaaro comes from that stiff upper lip attitude. Nah, hoha. Hoha. It's unhealthy.
It is unhealthy.
Yeah.
Coming back to a story, Pai, and around the loss of your son and loss of your boy, one thing I've kind of been sitting with is, because our kaupapa is, I guess, particular to suicide, which can leave with so many questions and so many unknowns, and it's such a surprise, or it's such a shocking piece of news. So as that is the contrast, like with knowing that your son had cancer, going into the hospital, going to do all these tests and having the treatment, for the process of grief, did having that time of knowing change it or make it less, because I know what this is, I know what this could be in terms of a loss, or does it still hurt just as much even having a lead up time, I guess, to it?
You know, I don't really know. I think it's a shock anyway, you know, because your grief is governed by the strength of your love, eh? So if you love hard, like we do with our babies, like Māori do with our babies, real Māori, then if your love's right up there, your grief's you're gonna fall, eh? And that's a reality of life, is that, you know, life ain't perfect. But as far as something like suicide, that initial shock of people not knowing or not understanding or whatever, I mean, it's so multi-layered of how we can try and prevent these things that avoid people going to a space of such extreme darkness that there's no way out, eh? You know, and I don't have the answers to that. But, you know, for people who are listening, I still believe that aroha is your best compass, eh? Aroha is your best compass. And then you look at the whole process of brain development, you know, on those ages, you know, about 12 up to 16, 17. I mean, you know, your frontal lobes that make emotional decisions, they don't develop till you're 25 or 26 or 30. I think mine is still developing, actually. Never too late for a good childhood. But even understanding that, our old people understood that stuff. They knew the science of growth, eh? And sometimes in this world we just get lost in stuff, eh?
Yeah, and that's another part of it, kind of the lost and confusion, particularly with grief. People who try and offer support, people who try and wrap around the whānau that's going through a loss and feel awkward about, like, oh, do I have to raise it and say, like, hey, do I just, you know, make them a cup of tea and talk about something, about the weather? Yeah. Is there an approach, or is there like a script, I guess, to raising and be like, hey, I know about this loss, or you know, how do you want to talk about it?
I think you're right on the button, bro. I think you should go with the script. And that script should be based on the relationship that you have with that person. And if you just stand there and look at them and just give them a big hug and say, you know, I'm close, anytime, that's your script. That's your script. And then you go home and you put in your diary, every 5 days, I'm just going to send that fellow love heart, or something that works for you. I had a Fijian mate who their whānau played, because I'm very proud of being a West Auckland, these guys played for the New Zealand Kiwi team, eh? They were tough. Oh. And he came up to me and he said, you know, bro, he says, I'm the guy. And I says, what do you mean you're the guy? He says, I'm the guy you can swear at, I'm the guy you can punch, I'm the guy you can slap, and I'll always be there. If you want to get angry, you come to me, bro.
Wow.
You know, to just express and swear and
Offering himself in that way.
offer himself in that way. That was his language, because we grew up together. That was his language of saying,
I can take it.
I can take it, and I want to take it. You know, so there's no one answer other than sometimes less is more, eh? Sometimes less is more, but always give that person an open door that they can go through at any time. Don't say, come here. Say, here's the door. When you're ready, I'm always ready, bro. Always ready to chat. Yeah, and the more people who say that, because you got to remember, some people don't know what to say, especially our Pākehā whānau, because tēnei mea te mate, tēnei mea te tūpāpaku, very foreign.
Yeah.
They don't know what, you know, it's, with all due respect to our Pākehā whānau listeners, you know, tēnei mea te mate, it's a spring roll and asparagus roll and bury them, you know, and that whole stiff upper lip tape, no, not good. Not good.
Yeah, I remember attending a Pākehā funeral.
Yeah.
And because I've only ever been to open casket tangihanga in up north, which is like a 3-day minimum.
Yeah.
It's like most 5 days, and it's like a whole process of grieving, of releasing. And the one thing I remember going in and seeing was like, man, this proceeding was, the person that spent the most time with the tūpapaku was the undertaker, not even the family.
Yeah.
And then like they spent 4 hours getting them ready. It was 30 minutes to say a kōrero and then koehe.
Yeah.
It is, and that is such
and that's not the way of the Irish or the Celts or the
Māori.
Scottish or the Indigenous people, eh? You know, and I remember asking my dad, my father was, you know, from Whangape, and I says, Dad, how come you fellas stay up all night and talk? Nobody can get any sleep. And he says, well, that's the whole point, boy. I says, why? He says, because when the whānau goes home, that's when they sleep. They're exhausted. And when you sleep, you repair. So, ka kite koenga whakaro e pāna ki tēnei mea te, you know, and that was the science of what they did. That was all part of the grieving process, eh? But I think just going back to suicide, I think if you lost somebody who was obviously dear to you through suicide, I think the worst thing would be, how come I didn't see this? And it's a question that, just from my point of view, and you know, my grief is different. You can't keep asking yourself that.
It's unfair to ask yourself that.
Let yourself off the hook, because you don't know the complexities, and even though it might be your brother or your tamaiti or whatever, you don't know the complexities that have gone through to culminate in that result.
In an action.
Yeah, in that action, and it could be just a peak of that time that decision was made, and you know, if you continue to, I need to be really careful here, but you've got to let yourself go. You know,
is that something you learned for yourself, Pa, through your own grief process around, I don't know, regrets that you felt, or your own process of understanding?
No, we had no regrets, but I have to put it in a place. I have to put my grief in a place. Grief will walk side by side. There'll be different things. I was up the cemetery yesterday, just talking, asking, you know, and then you just go home. You know, it's yeah. And I think the other thing too is, especially in this time, don't ignore the miracles that are around us, hey? The miracles, the things that really
Because grief can kind of do that, eh? Yeah,
bro.
yeah. Can blind you to those good things.
Yeah, those good things and those good relationships that you have. And I'd never really have. I mean, you know, in your younger days, if you meet somebody who you disagreed with, you know, being from the north, you like to go through them, eh? Now I can't be bothered. I just go round and they're still barking like little dogs. You know, I haven't got the time for it. I need to surround myself and my family. And there's a fine line between family. I don't have a lot of friends. My friends are my whānau. Hey.
Yeah, they become part of it.
Yeah, they become part of the whānau.
Yeah.
You know, I've got plenty of acquaintances. So spending time with those people is a real, really good way to refill your emotional tank, eh? Because it's sucked. You're sucked dry, eh?
And we kind of touched on like the 4 stages of grief. It's not linear, it's not square, it's not pretty even. It's like you can go through any stage at any point and go back and forth. Another kōrero we can hear is time heals all scars. When it comes to grief, do you think that's true?
No.
Or do you think that's false?
No.
Why is that?
Well, it's not true for me. Because if my grief heals, what is heal? That mean I've forgotten?
Let
or
go?
is it or is it that I'm living in that space with comfort and peace? Now, if that's heal, ke te pai tērā. But if you put it to one, I'm never going to put this grief to one side. It's a part of me. But if I can walk with it and operate properly and also continue to contribute to the greater good of others, you know, all my boys, I says, man, if you're going to go into somebody's space, enhance the space. And we live like that. And that's what I want to continue to do. So I did a presentation on grief in Tūrangi. And just to the right-hand side, there was a woman there, and nā ko tangi ne. I thought, this is, oh, gee, man, what am I doing? And anyway, we spoke afterwards, and she'd lost a child. And through that conversation, and I'm keeping her covered. You don't know who she is. You don't know if the child's a boy or girl, whatever. But through that conversation and coming to listen to my story, she ended up being involved with my wife in their group.
Wow.
And 3 or 4 months later, I think they rented a house somewhere down in bloody Kāwhi or somewhere and sat there and cried and laughed and te mea. So there has to be deliberate steps towards the sunshine.
Okay.
Hey.
Yeah. It's not something that'll come to you, eh? Is that we have to seek it out?
I don't want to wait. Hey, it may come to you, but what if it doesn't? Because if you don't continue to walk towards the sunshine, what about the rest of your whānau? You still owe the rest of your whānau. You. Well said. You, the best you can do, you know, and you know, and you owe them because you do. You're in relationships with people. So it's not just managing grief for yourself as a parent, as somebody who's part of something bigger than yourselves. You have to keep contributing. That's my whakaaro anyway.
And I guess another particular dynamic of your story of grief, Pa, is like you're also a public figure. You're a public figure going through grief.
Yeah.
What's that like in terms of managing either public perception and even like your own pain?
I think I've been really honest with people. And I've been honest with people. I've been very vulnerable with people because what happens when you do that, you find out that everybody's got their story. Okay? And other stories pop up. And if you're vulnerable and open with people, that means that gives them the permission to come into you and have the conversation. You know? And, okay, like somebody loses their father, right? You know, oh, how old was your dad? 80. Inside my selfish heart, I'm going, 80? Bloody hell. He fell in love, he had children, he had a career, he lived till 80. You know, all those things. Ako hea na era momo whakaro. But they're natural to think like that.
Yeah.
Okay, but grief is their grief. You know, who the heck's going to say that, oh, no, my grief's more...
Yeah, the
more,
Pain
more.
Olympics.
Yeah, it's well said. Yeah, it's not the Pain Olympics. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah.
Grief is grief. You know, I had to take a week off work when our German Shepherd died. You know, because as soon as I get home, that dog was all over me. And people are in those relationships. Grief is just crap. And please let other people sit in theirs. And be there to help them, eh? Yeah.
And I also picked up from your kōrero pā around the range of grief experience within your whānau, the way you deal with it, your wife, your kids.
Yeah.
Is there a point, because I also just say people grieve differently, paiana, māramana. Is there a point where we have to grieve together?
I don't know if we have to grieve together, but we have to repair together. Okay? So to sit down and have a kei and laugh, you know, to go up north and, call that a kino, gee, you know, whatever, and have those laughs, everybody around that table knows who we're thinking about. Don't have to say the name. So grieve together, in my opinion, is a great thing to do. But I'm not sure my family can do that. I'm being honest. But we can repair together and never feel, I've got to tell you something, bro. Headstones. It's another grief stage.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, te whakakanohi, almost.
Yeah. I've only in the last 3 years been able to look at photos of my boy. So headstone, and you get a little bit of pressure. You know, should put up a headstone, tell me what to do. You know. And because a headstone, bro, number one, I'm supportive. But number two, it's not a Māori concept.
Kia ora.
Hey.
Kia ora.
No America,
Ai.
me ingarani.
Ai,
Ne.
marama. Ai.
Yeah, so that's where the headstone comes from. So where Teina's tinana lies is just a little plaque saying who he is. So I went and I built a house, a tiny house in Mitimiti, and it's called Teina's Whare. Right? So if you had loss, you can go there. For free. Just a koho would be nice though. Yeah. So you can go there and repair. So that means that little monument that I've created is a living thing that actually has the ability to take some grief away. Not a rock. Hey. You know? And so that's where I've just come from. And when I sleep in that little house, bro, I can feel this warmth, eh?
Wow.
And then I get up and tangaroa and all those scientifically, our old people knew this stuff, you know? Yeah. So, and now I've just made a duplicate sign. I got these people to, you know, those road signs, those AA road signs? Well, I've just got one made called Teina's Whare, he maumahara, and it's going up on the road.
Yeah, so people can easily find it.
Can find it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then what happens when they go into that house, bro? They'll talk about him.
Yeah.
They'll
say
talk
his
about
name.
it. They'll say his name. No. You know, we don't want our people to die twice.
Yeah, kia ora.
Ko mate te tinana, ko mate te ingoa, kia hau nei e hea tērā.
Ai, kia ora.
Yeah,
Kia ora.
so I'm really proud. Now, we will get a headstone, but that's just a marking of where his tinana is. I remember this fella saying to me, and I know we're running out of time, and he says, bro, soul, it's a bit like driving a car, you know, when the car's finished, you go on to the next car, you get out of that car, well, that's what your soul does, he reckons. You know, so that tinana ko pau, ko mutu, and, you know, hopefully his soul is...
Ko whiti atu e.
Yeah.
Ngani, kia hoki atu ki te hanga o tērā whare pā me te mahana, kore ko tērā te wairo o tō tamaiti.
Yeah.
Tēnei whakamaha nei i te iwi ka hau atu ki roto ki aia, ki runga i aia.
Yeah.
And yeah, just to have a dedicated, consecrated area for that grief process, because it's such a particular type of feeling. Like, again, what it takes away from you, how you end up making sense of it, but just to have a place just to express it with a whānau, which is you guys, and also a son
Yeah.
To have like, yeah, no one else will get the story like this place does.
But like, if and you know, you can come there, but come there for the right reasons. But if somebody in your whānau or somebody in our group here suffered some loss and needed to go to that house, that means Teina's still contributing to your well-being. Hey,
Playing a role.
Playing a role in your repair. Well, that's enhancing space. And as Māori, that's what we do, and that's what we should do.
Kia ora. And as we kind of come into the final pātai, the final kind of section of our kōrero pa, again, through carrying your grief, carrying your loss, and hearing stories of people's suicide and other people's losses, what does that bring you to do, or what does that ask you to do when you see that, and the things you want to do to reach out to whānau support, and what you might say to them?
I think people, whenever you're in a place of grief or you're stuck or you're bogged down, you need a map. And you can choose your own map. It might be, you know, it might be church, it might be whānau, it might be going out hunting, it might be getting back to the gym, looking after your tinana. They're all layers that will put you on that journey to move forward. But it's quite an individual thing. For me, it was that house, or is that house. But I think I've never, 3 sons, I've never told them to harden up. Hoha e nā kōrero. But I've always told them to be strong. There's a difference, you know, because with harden up, sometimes when you say those sorts of things, compassion loses.
You deny their pain, eh?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But, you know, to be strong, that means it could mean anything, you know. But, yeah, I think for our people who are grieving and find themselves in a space where they think there's no escape from, there is. There is. And you've got to keep connecting. I'm not saying talking. I'm saying connecting. Keep connecting, eh?
Because he rāki tua. He rāki tua he. Ka whitia anō te rā. Ka whitia anō te marama. Ka whitia anō te rā.
Stay afloat.
Yeah, koia. Kia ūtonu ki a koe, ūtonu ki tō whānau, ūtonu ki tua, ki te pai tawhiti. Nō reira, e mihi ana ki a koe pā, te rahi, te hohunu o ngā kōrero, me te patanga nui ki ngā tini whānau, me ngā, tēnei mea te mate, tēnei mea te whakangaro atu o te tangata, me te noho te pāpauri, kāmutu, me pēhea te puta ki te whaiau, ki roto te ao marua. Nō re, mihi ana ki a koe pā. O tira tātou, i tēnei huringa kōrero o tātou, ka tō anō, ka toro anō ki ngā kupu karikia, kia kapi i tēnei wānanga o tātou. Nō reira, wairea te rangi e tūnei, wairea te pa.